Hi everybody, I hope you're good today. Welcome to our online class of social studies. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, but most of all, I hope you learned something useful for your daily life. So, as you can see here, the title of today's presentation is Financial Functioning of the State, and that means that we are going to talk about the functions that the state has on the economy of the country, specifically on the economy of Colombia. We are going to learn three basic characteristics, and the first one says that like every economic agent, the state has a budget. That's a relation between income and expenses. So that means that as an economic agent, the state has some specific amount of money has a specific amount of money. That's why it has to work with it. So the first thing is that the state as a normal person earns an amount of money, and second, it has to learn how to expend it. That means that the state has to learn how to invest the money that it earns. And the second characteristic says that the state has to maintain a balance between incomes and expenses. That means that the state has to earn enough money to invest in the things that the country needs, but also needs to expend just enough to don't get to doesn't get in debt with other countries or with some internal problems. Because as you can think, the state, the same as you, when you have some money, can spend more money than the money it has. The third characteristic here say that the financial policies from the state affects the macroeconomy of the country, of the nation, of the country if we talk about Colombia. So that means that the state creates some policies that are in charge of the financial development of the country. And depending on the quality of those policies, the development of the country is going to increase or is going to decrease. And the agents that are affected by that policy, but that policies are the economic growth, the investment, and the employment, and of course the unemployment. The last part of this characteristic is this image that I wanted to show you, because for me the image shows like a big machine that works together, and that's how the state works, because the state is like a big machine where each part has an important role on the development of the economy. And if some small part is doing bad its job, the whole economy is going to be affected. So I want you to think how in Colombia sometimes the economy doesn't work in the best way, because the small parts of the economy are doing its job bad and with corruption, and as we know. Now we are going to talk about the way that the state earns money, and then we are going to talk about the way that the state expend that money. So first of all, the state's income. Remember that income is the money that something or someone received by a job or by a work. The state's incomes are two, actually are more than two, but I'm going to talk about just two that gives the most money on to the state of Colombia. The first one is are the taxes that we give to the government each year or also in each buy that we do. So the first characteristics say that it produces the highest income of the state of the Colombian state. That means that the majority of money that the state of Colombia receives comes from the taxes that we pay in different ways. And the second characteristic say that direct or indirect taxes paid by citizens and companies. So the taxes are divided in two, in direct taxes and indirect taxes. The first one are the one that we pay for our living. For example, when you have a house, you have to pay each year an amount of money for the taxes. And for example, if you have a car, you have to pay some taxes for your car, and the most of the time those taxes are paid each year. But the second one, that are the indirect taxes, are the one that we pay every time that we buy something. We understand it like the IVA. The IVA is amount of money, are taxes that we pay on the when we buy some things, some specific things. The second thing also is the state's capital. That means the capital that the state has, the amount of money that the state has, and how the state gets some money and how the state increase that money. That's in four different ways. The first one say that profits of public companies. So the state has also public companies that make some profits, but some profits are not enough to resolve all the problems that we have on the economy of the country. But there are other characteristics, like the second one that says that debt's interested. So it's when someone debts some money to the state, and that debt is going to increase because of the interest. So the person who debts money to the state is going to pay more money than the money that he or she received at the beginning. The third way in which the states earn money are the selling or transferences of the state's goods, because as you know, the state also has some goods and also gives some services, and it receives some money of those transactions. And fourth one are donations that some countries made, that some rich people or different situations when someone donates some money to the state. Okay, and the last part is the expenses of the state. Are the state's expenses, and the same that with the last part, there are more situations where the state expend the money, but we are going to talk about the main three situations. So the first one is the public administration, is the way that the state administrates the whole country. So the state needs to expend money on the organizations that control the whole country. That's why it says that presidency, ministries, Congress, and judicial branch. So the state gives money to the work of the president, the ministers, the congresses, and some person on the judicial branch. The public administrations also is in charge of the security of the country. So that's why the highest amount of money that the state has goes to the armed forces that are composed by the police, the army, the air force, and etc. So the public administration is a way, or better, is a statement where the state invests most of its money. The, the second characteristic say that the state invests the money in education, so that means it's in public education, education from high school and elementary, and also the public university. So that's another important part of the on the investments of the state. The second characteristic is the public health. It has to be with the health system of the country, the public health system of the country. So each time that the state earns some money, has to think in a way to spend it uh, on the health of the citizens of the country. And the third characteristics are health problems and social work or social assistance. So that means that the state makes some subsidies to poor people who needs the help of the state to create some house, to buy some food, to study, and to other different things that they need. So I think this part is like really clear, but I would like to talk about that this is an ideal form of the expenses of the state, because on this country the expenses on the states are 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 like very corrupt, I would say. But most of all, they doesn't work good, because each part that are in charge of expend the money of the state on those situations, for example, on the armed forces, on the education, on the public health, try to get some benefits, some profits of this work, and the amount of money that the state has for these situations, for these things, is going to decrease each time that happens. And to finish, I got here an example of Colombian government expenses. So this is a diagram where you can see from 1992 to 2016 the way that the Colombian state has spent all the money. So the first thing is this in blue, that are security, uh, social security, that is the thing that I just tell you, that is the money invested in armed forces, like the police, like the army, and etc. So if you realize this, the most important thing is that the state has spent a lot of money on war since many time ago, and that's not going to change if we don't do anything to change it. And for doing something, I mean to get prepared to apport some policies, to some public policies that help to solve these problems, but also thinking in the way that we are going to vote each time, because depending on the person, the security, the social security, is going to get more important or less important. Here says that the second big spend that the state makes is the education. If you can see, this amount of money hasn't changed so much since 1992, because it's almost uh, uh, it almost goes from 2% to 4% of the PIB. And the third characteristic is the health, and the fourth characteristic are the subsidies that the state gives to the people. So for today is enough. I hope you understand some things. I'm going to be helping you on the page, but I need you to read this presentation and to see this video that I just made for you. So uh, we are